Yeah, that's on. It's fine. Right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the previous episode, I gave you an overview of Zuru' wal-Thimar. We're speaking about here your crops and your fruit. I gave you a brief overview about some of the opinions with Imam Abu Hanifa as well as As-Sahiban. Inshallah, today we'll go into detail into those masail. So what you've got to remember is when we first took conditions for zakat to be compulsory upon a person, we said that the hawl should pass. So he should be holding that wealth for a full year. Okay? When it comes to farming, when it comes to your crops, when it comes to your fruit, this no longer applies. Okay? Rather, you pay when you harvest. They call it hasad. Hasad. So sad here. Okay? So here you don't wait for 1 year to have held those crops or to have harvested. No, you pay as soon as you harvest. So that's one of the differences when it comes to this chapter. All other chapters, when you're holding money, when you're holding camels, etc., you look for the year. Number 2, we said in the Hanafi madhab, generally in your conditions of zakah, a person must be balighan aqil. They say the condition is al-bulugh and aql. Okay? So they say that if a child has wealth, i.e. monetary wealth, gold and silver, they don't pay zakah. And if you've got a person who's mentally insane, they don't have to pay zakah on their wealth. However, when you're speaking about farming here, again, an exception to that normal rule. If they had to have land, and this land, you're growing crops or fruit, etc., you would still have to pay zakah. So immediately, getting into this chapter, you've already taken that there are 2 exceptions to the general rule. First is when it comes to the hawl. We don't wait for 1 year to lapse. Rather, we pay zakah according to the harvest. Number 2 is if you've got a child who owns, let's say, farms, they own a farm, or you've got a person, a madman, and before he went mad, he owned farms, whatever they grow, they have to pay zakah on it. So that's beginning 2 masail. Next, when you get to this chapter, we took before in the conditions of zakah, we said there's something called nisab. Nisab means there's a certain threshold that you have to reach before you pay zakah. Okay? So for example, a person has 2 and 3 camels and 4 camels, they don't pay zakah. Now, when it comes to this chapter, in the Hanafi madhab, there's a difference of opinion between the Imam, who is Imam Abu Hanifa, and between his 2 students, Imam Abu Yusuf and Imam Muhammad. Imam Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, his opinion is that there's no threshold, i.e. you pay zakah whether it's little or a lot, fi qalilihi wa kathiri. There's the first mas'ala when it comes to nisab, meaning after you've taken these. So Imam Abu Hanifa says you pay zakah whether you've taken out a nisab or not. There's no nisab, whether there's a little bit, a few tomatoes or a lot of tomatoes. Example, Imam Abu Yusuf and Imam Muhammad, they say that there's a threshold to be reached. What's the threshold? They say khamsatu awsuq. This is 5 in Arabic. Awsuq. Okay. What's awsuq? 1 wasaq is equal to, it's a form of measurement, is equal to sittuna sa'an, 60 sa'. What's a sa'? 1 sa' is equal to 4 handfuls, which is called a mud. So to remember, mud is your smallest unit of measurement, which is a handful like this. Mud, like you're making dua. 4 muds make a sa', I don't have my sa' here. There's different people who measure the sa' differently. But hold on one second. I might have one here. There's different people who've measured a mud and a sa'. This is our Sheikh Abdul Muhsin Al-Qasim, who measured, as according to his calculations, he says, this is a sa'. Okay, and he's got a little line inside, and he mentions some of the hadith, etc. Let's speak about it. And he explained to us how he got to this measurement. You find a lot more people who've gotten bigger, no, who have a higher measurement. But generally, yeah, I think he's got it here. These are some of the benefits. So this I'll sidetrack since you're here and you've got it. It says isti'malat as-sa', which means where is the sa' generally used? Number one is we have a hadith that speaks about the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he used to make ghusl. كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يغتسل بصاع. He would make ghusl. He would bath with a sa'. This much water. This much water. You're looking at about a liter of water, or 1 liter, 1.2 roughly. It says, as for nisabu zakah, nisabu zakat al-hububi kal-aruz wal-thimar wal-tamr 300 sa'. So as I told you. So here when we come to zakah, back to my board, khamsatu awsuq, one wasaq is 60 sa'as, and you have to have 5 of them to reach nisab. So 60 by 5 is equal to 300. Okay. So here, according to Imam Abu Yusuf and Imam Muhammad and the others, they say that when a person reaches the threshold of 300 sa'as, so imagine you've got dates and you can fill 300 of these, that's when you've reached nisab. Okay. Nisab. Okay. 300 sa'. Imam Abu Hanifa says whether you've got this much or so much, you still pay zakah. They're saying no, hold on, if you've only got 1 of these or 10 of these, you don't pay zakah. But you pay zakah once you've reached 300 sa'as, right? And I told you, generally when you find in the hadith says that there's no zakah on anything less than 5 awsuq. And 1 wasaq is 60 sa', 1 sa' is 4 muds. So if you take your handful like this, you take your hand like this and you have to take grain and put it, you get to 4 and you fill this up. And then he mentions where sa' is used for a few different kafarat. Okay, getting back to the lesson. So that's one difference here of opinion between Imam Abu Hanifa and his 2 students is in the nisab. Second difference of opinion is what do you pay zakah on? Okay, Imam Abu Hanifa says you pay on everything that comes out of the ground. That includes your vegetables. It includes your fruit that's perishable. Perishable means it goes bad after a little while. It includes anything that comes out of the earth that's edible, a crop and a fruit. His 2 students are of the opinion that no, we don't pay zakah on anything. Rather, we look at the fruit and the crops that are able to remain, i.e. they remain good without having to treat them. So in our case, for example, without having to put certain chemicals to keep them, or without having to blast freeze them, for example, keep them in containers which are cold storage. They say as long as it can survive by itself for a year, then you pay zakah on it. So that would include your wheat, your barley, your dates, your raisins, etc. As for Imam Abu Hanifa, he says anything that the earth gives out, you would pay zakah on it. So even your cabbages that a person grows, or your apples that a person grows, even though if you leave them out, that cabbage may go bad after a week. It says you still pay zakah on it. So that's another mas'ala. Look, we started here, took hawl, bulugh and aql, then took nisab, Imam Abu Hanifa. It's 2 students here. We said their threshold is 300 sa'. 1 sa'. You see, the scholars differ when it comes to its equivalent in kgs. And if different grains weigh differently, So dates would be different to rice, for example. But roughly, if you had to have a guesstimate, 1 sa' of this, you're looking at roughly a kg and a half of this. So this 300 sa' will come up, depending on, again, what you're weighing, anywhere between 300 and 600 kgs, roughly. Okay. Then we said Imam Abu Hanifa says you pay on everything. Remember, he doesn't believe in a threshold. So even whether you have 1 kg of things or not. And they believe in the threshold for zakah. They believe in what remains for the year without being treated. When it comes to fruit and crops, etc., you'll find that there's those things which are measured with a sa', and there's those which are not measured with a sa'. Inshallah, we'll take those tomorrow. So, for example, a person who's growing cotton, you don't measure cotton by putting it in a sa'. There's different unit of measurement. So this masala we'll take tomorrow. You must remember that. Try to remember if there's any other masail. Okay, Imam Abu Hanifa, he says you give a zakah on everything that a person grows, and he's growing it in order to benefit. Now, there's some things that grow by themselves that are just growing in the wild. For example, wild grass and wood, certain weeds, certain stalky plants, etc. There's no zakah on them unless, according to Imam Abu Hanifa, unless a person takes them. So he let's say he shuts down that piece of land. So it was growing in nature. He shuts down this forest, for example, and he's the one who looks after it and he takes care of it. There he must pay zakah because he's now starting to use it, and it's as though he's hiring the earth. Then we mentioned zakah on vegetables. I don't think there's any more masail left for today. Let me check my book. Okay, one more masala. What zakah does a person pay? Whether according to Imam Abu Hanifa or the other ai'. According to Imam Abu Hanifa, he pays zakah on a little or a lot. According to them, he pays zakah when he's reached the threshold. How much zakah is it? Here we look at what's being used to water these crops or these plants. So you've got these plants and crops that depend on natural water. So they're being grown because there's a river close by, there's a lake close by, they're in a place or climate where it constantly rains, or the rains are good. They've got no extras. They're not in a desert climate, for example. So here a person would pay 1/10 ushr. Okay, 1/10 of what he harvests. So Imam Abu Hanifa, for example, if a person, is making it simple for you, if a person grew 100 cabbages, okay, he would have to give 1/10 of that in zakah. 1/10 of that is 10 in zakah, because 100, 1/10 of 100 is 10. His students also agree with him here that as long as you're using what Allah has provided, i.e., it's something natural, you're not spending on going to buy water or digging your own wells and having your own motors. No, it's coming from Allah. So here you would pay what they call ushr. Again, 1/10, they're in agreement. But why I put them separately is because they're saying you would pay 1/10 when you reach the threshold. When you reach the threshold. And what happens if a person is using their own efforts in order to water? So for example, they give efforts, and if you look at it, you would see that zakah goes down because it's an expense to the person. So we can't make him pay zakah same as how this person pays, who's benefiting naturally by sitting back and it's raining good, for example. So they say here, they give the example of a person who goes to use his bucket to get the water and then come and put it. Or a person who has, in the olden days, they had these machines. It's not an electrical machine. They would put similar to a windmill, okay, but it's in the water and it would move. So it's an expense to put this contraption there, and it would run like a motor, like a pump. Inshallah, if I find it for you online, I'll send it to you. So that's like a machine, it's an expense. Or in our terms today, if a person had to dig his borehole and then he had to put his motor inside his submersible pump, etc. So here they wouldn't pay 1/10, they would pay half of 1/10. In the books they say nisful ushur. Nisful ushur means 1/20th. Remember, the fractions, the higher the number gets, the less the amount is. 1/20th. So for example, here we said, according to Imam Abu Hanifa, if a person has 100 cabbages, he'll give 10 in zakah. And here 1/20th, if a person has 100 cabbages, how many will he give? He'll give 5, because 100 divided by 20 is 5. Same with these, Imam Abu Yusuf and Imam Muhammad. But again, they say that you must reach the threshold, and it's only on certain crops and certain foodstuffs. And then let's say a person has a half this way, half that way. So for example, when they watering, half the year the rain is good and half it's not. So they would pay what's in between this, which would be 3/4. ثلاثة أرباع. Why? If you've got here 1/10 and 1/20, and then you're going to get in between there, you'll pay 3/4 of what's required. And inshallah, tomorrow we'll get into that mas'ala along with this one here. This one here that I left. Something that's not being weighed with a sa'. Any questions? Did you guys understand what we've taken so far? There's a lot of branching out into different masail and according to different opinions. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
So nisab is 5 wasaq, and then one was the nisab for Abu Yusuf and Imam Muhammad.
Yes, Imam Abu Yusuf and Imam Muhammad, and the other madhahib also, they say khamsat awsuq.
So 5 wasaq, 1 wasaq equals 60 sa'.
Yes. So 5 wasaq is equal to 300 sa'.
Oh, 300. Right.
Yeah, so that's a zakah. So here, look, for example, here you've got 1 wasaq is equal to 60 sa'. Okay. So 5 wasaq has to definitely equal more than 60. So you multiply 60 by 5. You put this 5 on the top there, 5 by 60, and you get 300. 6 5s are 30, and you add a 0 there, that's 300. So 300 sa'. So when a person has 300 sa' of crop or fruit, then they have to give zakah on it. That's when they pay zakah. How much zakah would they pay? According to how they're watering their crops, either a 10th or a 20th ushur or nisful ushur.
Sheikh, I have a question. The person who is employing or using machinery for irrigation will come in the nisful ushur?
Yes.
Nisful ushur?
Yes, 1/20th. That's why in the books, when you read the books, they say whatever has been grown sayhan, which is water that just flows on the earth, or from rainwater, you don't need to catch rainwater and put it, grows. But somebody, let's say, for example, he's got a lake, but or he's got a dam, but he can't get water from the dam. In order to get water from the dam, he has to put a piping, he has to put a pump, he has to put etc., etc. All those are expenses, so it becomes easier for him. He pays less zakah.
What was the condition for the person grows 100 cabbages, he pays 10%?
What's that?
You pay 10%, 1/10.
1/10, yeah.
Once you reach the nisab, is that when once you pay 1/10?
According to Imam Abu Hanifa, there's no nisab. It says في قليله وكثيره, and فيما سقي بلا مؤنة العشر. They say whatever's been grown without any effort behind it, i.e. they're speaking about water here, you pay 1/10. And whatever's grown with mu'nah, with effort, water, irrigation, etc., is nisful ushur, which is 1/20th. And they say if it's half, then thalathatu arba'. We'll get into that tomorrow, inshallah. Any other questions? Did you understand? There's a few more masail small masail that you take in this chapter. They start differentiating between what's ard al-ushr and ard al-kharaj. They start differentiating between when does zakah become compulsory. There's those who say while it's still on the tree. There's those who say, you know, when it comes down and it's been put in the storage, for example. And what you benefit from those opinions is, let's say everything had to be destroyed while it's on the tree. Those who say zakah is compulsory while it's still on the tree, but okay, you'd still have to pay zakah. And those who say it's not until you put it in the place of where it's storage, then you would have to, you wouldn't have to pay. Here's some of the masail, inshallah, you'll take. Then they come to things like honey, etc. Do you pay zakah on honey, and how much do you pay cotton, etc.? Cotton comes into this side here where you're not, even though it's not, I wouldn't say it's something edible, but they speak about it. Okay. Because you're still growing it.
Sheikh, when it comes to dates, dates are of different sizes. For example, some of them are very big.
Yes.
Do we have to count them one?
No, so you take a saw like this and you count. Or in the olden days, they had specialists who would be able to gauge, I told you it's called a kharis, how much zakah you are owing. So they, when they look at the trees, they come to the farm, they say, okay, this guy roughly, he needs to pay 1,000 sa in zakah, roughly. So it's not, remember, there's 2 units of measurement. These days we use a kg, we go according to weight. So, for example, you might have you might have a heavy fruit, okay, but it's very small, and the scale says 5 kgs. And you may have something that's very light, but it's big, okay. That's one way, that's 1 unit of measure. Today we use kgs. However, another unit of measure is you measure according to the area that it fits in the container, or that it takes up in the container. And that's your sa'. That's your Islamic measurement. So for example, here, if you have big dates, for example, you've got something like ambar, which is the size of your finger, you would have less dates compared to if you had small ajwa. So ambar, let's say you fill 100 in here, for example, and ajwa you might fit 300. But that's why it's fair, because you're going according to the surface area of how much you have. Any other questions? You understood?
We took the second point that if a child or a madman has a land, then who will be paying for the crops? The person who owns the land or the person who harvests in that land?
No, so he owns the land, he owns the farm. Okay?
Okay.
Whoever's looking after him will pay. You then get another mas'ala. Let's say a person has a piece of land and he hires it out. So let's say I have a piece of land. I have no experience in farming. You're a farmer. I give you my land. Here, who pays the zakah? Inshallah, it will come. Is it ala al-mu'ajjir or mustajir? But here we're not talking about the person had the land and gave somebody else to farm it. No, we're not talking about that. We say the person has the land, he has the farm, he had all workers on the farm, but it belongs to him. And after that, he lost his mind, or it's a child who inherited from his father the whole empire. You would pay zakah on that. And another reason some of the scholars mention is because this is something apparent. It's something that the poor people see. It's something that you can't hide. And that's why at times they differentiate in a few masail between what they call amwal al-zahira, wealth that's apparent and can be seen, and amwal batina, that's that which is hidden. So generally your gold and silver and your money is hidden. But if you have a farm, you can't really hide your trees and that from the people. They know roughly how much you have. So one of the reasons is these poor people carry on walking on the road every day. They pass your farm all the time. They look at your trees, they look at your fruit, and then you say, no, there's nothing for you. It shouldn't be the case. That's why you find one of the reasons in the books of fiqh is that. No more question? I hope you understood. Inshallah, it was clear. Because you have to understand here and take a few masail, then you build more masail, and you build more, and you build more. Now, can you see why you take masail which are the rule, then you get small exceptions to the rule, like here, hawl, 1 year passing. No, in this bab, وَآتُوا حَقَّهُ يَوْمَ حَصَادِهِ. And here, bulugh wal aql, but you have a slight exception to the rule. And that's how you build your fiqh through mas'ala. You gather them together, then inshallah you'll have a good understanding. Any questions? Wait, let me ask you. Can I ask you guys? Umar from India,
Yes,
if you have a piece of land, okay, and you are growing almonds. You know, it's an almond, what they call,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you pay zakah on them or you don't pay zakah on them? Why or why not? And according to who?
I'll pay zakah on them. Because
According to
that
Imam
can
Abu
be
Hanifa, or according to his 2 students, or according to all of them, you would pay zakah on them.
according to all of them.
Why?
See, according to Imam Abu Hanifa, we have to pay zakah anyway, and according to
Alright.
his students, that can be a storable thing. It
Yeah,
does not
it's
get.
able to survive without getting bad. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Alam Gheer,
Yes, Sheikh.
what happens if, let's say you're farming, okay, and you've put your irrigation, you've put your, okay, let me ask you a question where you use your brain. Let's say you're farming in a very hot climate, okay, the desert, and your plants or your crops, they need water. Let's say you're doing dates in the middle of the desert. Dates, they need heat, okay? And you know your trees, they can't survive without water, okay? And then you go and install, you dig a borehole, what they call those underground wells. You dig 1 kilometer deep, cost you a lot of money. After that, you put your motor or you put your pump, okay? And you started watering your trees for 1 day. And then your pump gave way, it broke down. At the end of the year, how much zakah are you going to pay? Bearing in mind
Yes.
you're living in a place where there's no rain.
Yeah. It could be nisful ushr or even less.
Khaybar,
So you pay 1/20th.
Omar, you need to use
So
your
I've
brains
been-
to answer this question.
Yeah,
Huh?
I'll pay nothing because after 1 day I lost my water source, so I have no crops.
Yeah, ahsant, well done. So I said that you're living in a place where there's no rain, and your trees, they depend on water. So if his pump stopped working after 1 day or 2 days, he can't water them for the whole year. The trees are going to die. They're not going to give any fruit. Ahsant, well done. Ahsant. Slowly, this teaches you how to think out of the box. طيب القراءة بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Inshallah, we'll take fiqh and Arabic both sessions so we can cover a little bit more ground. Say اقرأ الفقرة ثم أجب عن الأسئلة. This is where we reached, I'm sure. طيب عالم غير, you can read.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. شريف طالب في الجامعة. Sharif is a student in the university. وأخته زينب طالبة في
We
الجامعة.
didn't read this, confirm? We haven't taken this yet.
No,
Sharifun.
we have to start from here. Yes.
Ahsan. Read.
وأخته زينب طالبة في الجامعة أيضا. And his sister Zainab also studies in the same university.
طالبة في الجامعة أيضا. She's also a university student.
Okay. Yeah. هو يدرس الهندسة. He studies engineering. وهي تدرس طب. And she studies medicine, medical science. شريف
Medicine.
لديه
Medicine. طب
medicine.
is medicine.
Yeah, she studies medicine. شريف لديه هوايات كثيرة. شريف has many hobbies. ويحب السفر والمراسلة والقراءة. He loves traveling, writing and reading. وزينب لديها هوايات كثيرة أيضا. And Zainab has also
Murasala is more like sending letters between two people. It's like in the olden, you know how we have a chat today where you chat between people. So roughly it was like that, but it was through letters where the responses would come weeks and months later. Carry on.
وزينب لديها هوايات كثيرة أيضا. And Zainab has also many
So
hobbies.
look here. I want to correct you something. When you've got a zay and you've got a ya, especially when you're reading Quran, don't read zay, Zainabu.
وزينب لديها هوايات كثيرة أيضا. And Zainab has also many hobbies. هي تحب القراءة والصحافة. She loves reading and writing or newspapers.
Sahaba is to do with the newspaper. I like journalism. Okay. There's one chapter which they didn't teach you, which is important, and it builds onto your nahu. It's a chapter of dama'ir, your pronouns. So you've got pronouns. So what's a pronoun? The noun is the name of the person. For example, Zaid, and so you want to say Zaid came to me. Zaid is my friend. Zaid lives in a big house. Zaid has a car. Instead of saying Zaid, you say Zaid is my friend. He. So that he is a pronoun. It stands in place of the noun. So in Arabic, you've got these dama'ir, these pronouns. Some stand on their own. Some are joined to the word. Okay. And then there's those of them which are considered to be marfu'. Then there's those of them which are considered to be mansub. And you also get some which are majroor. So here in this passage that you've read, Khaybar, give me the dama'ir that stand on they call them munfasil, from infisal, to be separate. Give me the dama'ir that are munfasil. Huwa, which means
he,
ahsant, and
here,
ahsant. Next, again,
then huwa, he,
ahsant, and here.
then here. That's it.
This is your introduction to get to the dama'ir as well as the i'rab that will come with it. Then you know when to change your fi'l. For example, you won't say huwa tuhibbu. طيب خيبر أين يدرس الشريف؟
الشريف يدرس في الجامعة.
طيب if I said, he said, خيبر said شريف يدرس. Ibrahim, what if I had to say يدرس شريف when answering instead of شريف يدرس? Is that correct or incorrect?
يدرس شريف versus what?
So I asked him a question. I said, أين يدرس شريف? Where does Sharif learn? Where does he study? So when answering the question, he began his sentence by saying, شريف يدرس في الجامعة. Would it be correct if I said, instead of saying شريف يدرس like that, what if I said يدرس شريف في الجامعة? Would that be correct or not?
I don't know, because I'd say maybe it is correct.
طيب عمر المدني.
You repeat it, please.
طيب عالم غير. wait,
I think
before Alam Ghair. Umar from India.
it is
Check
both.
what you said as Yadrusu Sharifun, that would mean Sharif studies, and what Brother Khaybar said would be he studies Sharif.
I
Can
think
you say it both ways, or you can't say it both ways?
you can say both ways.
Omar from India, can you say it both ways, or you can't say it both ways? Can you say
You can-
يدرس شريف في الجامعة and شريف يدرس في الجامعة?
You can say both ways, but the way you said make more sense.
No, both are correct. Both are correct. In Arabic, we remember we're not translating word for word. So if you had to do this in English, you would say Sharif Yadrusu learns in the university. And you wouldn't be allowed in English to say he learns Sharif in the university. Yadrusu, but in Arabic, you can say both. The first one is called Jumla Ismiya because it starts with an ism. Second one is called Jumla Fi'liya because it starts with a fi'l. طيب, carry on. في أي كلية يدرس عمر المدني؟
في أي كلية يدرس؟ يدرس في كلية
الحرم.
كلية الحرب.
لا ما أدرس في الحرم يا شيخ. طيب ركز معنا. إبراهيم في أي كلية يدرس؟ إبراهيم في أي كلية يدرس؟
في أي
طيب, let's get some help. Saeed, if you're with us. He at work. طيب, خيبر في أي كلية يدرس? So they're asking which كلية, which college does he learn in?
يدرس في كلية هندسة.
Why you didn't join كلية الهندسة. طيب, ما هواياته على مغير؟
يحبه السفر والمراسلة.
سافر.
يحب السفر والمراسلة والقراءة.
عشان. طيب, في أي كلية تدرس زينب وعمر from India؟
يدرس
في أي كلية تدرس زينب؟
زينب يدرس
ويدرس.
sorry تدرس female. تدرس الطبع.
That full sentence. في أي كلية? If I had to ask you in English, which college do you learn in? You say what? I learn in the College of Science, for example. So this is في أي كلية تدرس زينب؟ تدرس في كلية الطب, for example. Okay, and that's the answer. طيب, ما هواياتها خيبر؟
هي تحب القراءة والصحافة.
Okay, so the way you people answer the question is she likes that. So you can even answer to say هواياتها القراءة والصحافة. طيب خيبر, read the next passage.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أحمد صديق سعيد.
It says صديق سعيد.
أحمد صديق سعيد. أحمد.
And if you had to say Ahmad, if you had to say أحمد صديق سعيد, what's the meaning?
Ahmad is a happy friend, and this one is the name. Sa'id is the name. Yeah.
So this one is Ahmad. Look, مضاف إليه, belonging. صديق سعيد, the friend of Sa'id. You carry on.
أحمد يدرس في كلية التربية. أحمد
تربية, no shut down there.
تربية. Ahmad studies in the faculty of teaching. وسعيد يدرس في كلية الطيران. And Sa'id, he studies in the faculty of airlines, aeroplane. أحمد يسكن في قرية. Ahmad lives in the village. وسعيد يسكن في المدينة. And Sa'id, he lives in the city. يذهب أحمد إلى جامعة بالحافلة. إلى الجامعة بالحافلة. Ahmad goes to the university by a bus.
By bus.
ويذهب سعيد بالسيارة. And Sa'id goes by the car. يدرس أحمد في الأسبوع 20 ساعة. Ahmad studies 20 hours in the week. ويدرس سعيد في أسبوع 30 ساعة. Sa'id studies 30 hours in the week. أحمد يحب القراءة الكتب.
يحب قراءة
أحمد يحب قراءة الكتب. Ahmad loves the reading of books. والجامعات.
والمجلات.
والمجلات.
الشدة أحسنت.
And newspapers.
مجلات magazines. صحف and newspapers.
وسعيد يحب السفر والمراسلة. And Sa'id loves traveling and المراسلة, hiking.
No, مراسلة is from رسالة, which is to send. They used to send messages. So they used to write to people. طيب عمر from India. من صديق سعيد؟
Ahmad.
أحمد. Man means who? Who is Said's friend? أحمد. طيب على مغير ماذا يدرس أحمد؟
في كلية الطيران.
لا.
أحمد سعيد.
خيبر.
أحمد يدرس في كلية التربية.
No.
تربية.
ماذا يدرس? They're asking what does he learn? You people are saying he learns the college of tarbiyah. If somebody asks you, they say, where do you study? You say, I study in the College of Mathematics. What do you learn? I learn the College of Mathematics, or I learn mathematics?
I learn mathematics.
I learn mathematics. طيب ماذا يدرس أحمد؟ يدرس التربية. ماذا يدرس سعيد؟ سعيد يدرس الطيران. Not يدرس كلية الطيران. ماذا? They're not asking where do they learn. They're not saying أين يدرس. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Now, أين يسكن أحمد؟ عالم غير.
في القرية.
وأين يسكن سعيد؟
في المدينة.
خيبر. كيف يذهب أحمد إلى الجامعة؟
بالحافلة.
يذهب بالحافلة. طيب كيف يذهب سعيد إلى الجامعة؟ عمر. Say, how does he go to the university, Said? يذهب
بالسيارة.
بالسيارة. أحسن. طيب كم ساعة يدرس أحمد في الأسبوع؟ خيبر. خيبر. طيب إبراهيم.
I don't know how to say, but 20 hours a week.
What's 20?
The hours he studies.
No, what's 20 in Arabic?
I don't know.
What's 10? What's 10 in Arabic?
I only know from 1 to 5. That's it.
What's 1 to 5? Tell us.
1 is واحد.
Yeah, واحد. Next.
واحد. 2 is إنثاك.
إثنان.
3 is ثلاثة. 4 is أربعة. And 5 is أربعة. And 5 is خمسة.
أحسنت والله. طيب كم ساعة يدرس أحمد في الأسبوع؟ خيبر.
هو يدرس 30 ساعة. في الأسبوع؟
أحمد 30 ساعة. طيب عمر المدني كم ساعة يدرس أحمد في الأسبوع؟
أحمد يدرس ثلاث
إيش 30؟ وين 30 يا شيخ؟ على مغير
ثلاث
20
20 ساعة. طيب على مغير كم ساعة يدرس سعيد في الأسبوع؟
30 ساعة.
أحسن. ما هواية أحمد؟
يحب قراءة والمجالات
See, again, you could be a little bit more accurate in saying what are his hobbies, and you're saying he likes to do this. It could pass.
هوايته.
Yeah, but you could say هوايته كذا وكذا وكذا. ما هواية السعيد خيبر؟
هوايته السفر والمراسلة.
مراسلته.
مراسلة.
طيب أحسن. كيف يذهب أحمد إلى الجامعة؟ We took that. طيب next one. Here you've got صل بين السؤال والجواب المناسب. Saying join between the correct question and answer. ماذا I'll ask عالم غير answer. Those of you who are on level 1, don't worry, even though you can't answer fully, it's okay. What you pick up here, inshallah, you remember most of it or a lot of it by the time you get here, and it will also help you on. طيب عالم غير ماذا تقرأ الآن؟
أقرأ القرآن.
ما هوايتك يا عثمان خيبر؟ خيبر عالم غير.
إسطاع. نعم. الفروسية هوايتي.
ليس الفروسية هوايتي.
إسطاع.
عالم غير. ما هوايتك يا عثمان عالم غير؟
هوايتك
هواية.
It's not mentioned here.
هوايتي الفروسية. Is it?
Yeah. هوايتي الفروسية.
Why isn't it نعم الفروسية هوايتي؟
No, be هل.
Yes, there'll be هل. طيب next one. أي جامعة تختار يا سفيان؟ عالم غير.
اختار جمعية الصحافة.
sorry أي جمعية تختار. sorry. هل تحب الخط العربي خيبر؟
هل تحب خط العربي؟ بالنعم.
Then read the full answer.
نعم أحب الخط العربي. زاي.
أحسن. طيب كم ساعة تقرأ في اليوم عالم غير؟
أقرأ 6 ساعات.
هل هذا جناح الصحافة خيبر؟
Is this جناح الصحافة؟ نعم هذا. نعم.
عالم غير.
لا، هذا جناح الطوابع.
أحسنت. هل تفضل الفروسية عالم غير؟
نعم، الفروسية هوايتي.
هل زرت معرض الكتاب عالم غير؟
It was wrong, I think. نعم
هل تفضل الفروسية؟ What else can you put there?
نعم أحبها.
Okay. هل زرت معرض الكتاب عالم غير؟
نعم زرته.
هل تحب الرياضة؟
نعم أحبها.
طيب هل تفضل الفروسية؟ عالم غير. نعم الفروسية هوايتي.
Yeah.
طيب, next one. Do you have one after this also? And there's that one, that one, that one. Still got a lot left. But those might just be small exercises. So let's finish this last one quickly. Alam Gheer, read for us, please.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. زار جميل وجلال مغرب الهوايات في جدة. في مغرب الهوايات جناح جمع الطوابع وجناه الخط العربي وجناه الصحافة وجناه التدبير المنزلي وجناه الرياضة. في جناح جمع الطوابع طوابع من كل بلد. وفي جناح الخط العربي آيات بخط النسخ وخط الرقعة. وفي جناح الصحافة صحف ومجلات وكتب. وفي جناح التدبير المنزلي طعام من كل بلد. وفي جناح الرياضة كرة القدم وكرة السلة والسباحة والفروسية.
والسباحة والفروسية. طيب, خيبر, من زار معرض الهوايات؟
في جدة.
خيبر is not with us today.
في
علم غير, من زار معرض الهوايات؟
جميل وجلال.
أحسنت. He's asking you who visited. أين معرض الهوايات علم غير؟
في جدة.
ماذا في جناح جمع الطوابع خيبر؟ ماذا في جناح جمع الطوابع؟
وجناه الخط العربي.
خيبر, you're not with us today. علم غير, ماذا في جناح جمع الطوابع? Saying what's in that جناح? The sentence is there, third line. في جناح جمع الطوابع طوابع من كل بلد. علم غير, ماذا في جناح الخط العربي؟
آيات بخط النسخ وخط الرقعة.
طيب, خيبر, ماذا في جناح الصحافة؟ خيبر.
Can I pass it?
Can you what?
Can I forfeit?
Why?
It's a bit too hard.
No, it's not hard. You're not with us. You're not reading with us. You got no book open. You're not following the passage. علم غير.
وفي جناح الصحافة صحف ومجلات وكتب.
طيب, ماذا في جناح التدبير المنزلي؟ علم غير.
طعام من كل بلد.
أحسنت. ماذا في جناح الرياضة؟
كرة القدم وكرة السلة والسباحة والفروسية.
أحسنت. واضح. Inshallah, we'll stop here. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Khaybar, why weren't you with us in the lesson today?
I was trying, but I don't know. Focus was bad.
You were not trying. I know your effort.